Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for What's New in accesso ShoWare, our latest product enhancements. My name is Joe Wettstead. I'm Vice President of Client Services, and I'm joined in presenting to you today by Drew Belmont, our Product Director for the accesso ShoWare product. Today, we're excited to share and review our newest ShoWare innovations. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know what to expect and how to participate in today's session. You may have already noticed that your voices have been muted. They will remain muted throughout the session. However, you will be able to type questions in that chat panel to our moderator throughout the webinar, and we look forward to addressing those questions again at the end of the webinar. Let's go ahead and get started with today's session. So at accesso, we believe technology has the power to redefine the guest experience. Everything we do starts with thinking about that guest experience first, which allows us to simplify operations, improve guest satisfaction, and drive growth for our clients. Accesso serves many core markets, from theme parks to performing arts, zoos to festivals. Our products and services support attractions around the globe. Whether it be food and beverage point of sale, virtual line reservations, ticketing, and guest management, our solutions help streamline and simplify operations for a wide variety of venues. Accesso has a suite of solutions that service ticketing and data management, again, from queuing products to ticketing and point of sale software, to distribution channels, to marketing and personalization of that guest experience. Our solutions help solve problems and enhance the guest experience at every touch point during that journey. Our approach is to let our clients focus on what they do best, which is provide outstanding experiences for their guests, while we provide the technology to support those efforts. We think about these solutions really in 4 different sets. The first is accesso LoQ, which provides virtual queuing solutions to attractions around the globe. The second category is ticketing. This includes our accesso ShoWare solution that we're discussing today, fully hosted box office and online ticketing solution, our robust accesso SiriusWare point of sale solution, and our award-winning accesso Passport e-commerce platform. Our third category is distribution. About a year ago, we acquired a company called Ingresso, which is essentially a global distribution system for venues and really helping our customers tap into new sales channels for their products. And then finally, our newest product, the Experience Engine, or TE2, really helps marketers utilize guest data to deliver more personalized interactions. Together, these have become the accesso ecosystem, going far beyond a single unit ever could and continuing to complement one another. To accomplish this coming together, accesso focuses on research and development, a major point of differentiation for our products and very relevant to today's discussion. In 2018, accesso was able to invest over $29 million directly back into research and development across its platforms. And honestly, that's equivalent to some of our competitors' entire annual revenues. We invest heavily in our products because the industry demands it, the client base benefits from it, and it makes a positive difference in that guest experience. Innovation's core to our business and our partnerships, and it's part of our commitment to our clients that our software continue to evolve to meet new demands. So we're going to shift our focus and just talk about accesso ShoWare product for the rest of the webinar, and we're going to specifically focus on the innovations we've completed in the first half of 2019, and then a bit of a glimpse into what's in store through the rest of the year. And with that, I'm glad to turn things over to Drew Belmont. Drew?
Hey, thanks, Joe, for the nice intro. As Joe mentioned, so my name is Drew Belmont, and I'm the product director here at accesso ShoWare. And I'm really excited to speak to everyone today about what we've been up to for the last 6 months. I really enjoy doing these presentations because it allows me to directly speak to our users about the tools that we've been hard at work developing to provide some additional insight and explain some of the reasoning behind why we create and enhance our software. We love what we do here at accesso ShoWare, but our clients are the ones that ultimately allow us to do what we do, which is why their feedback is so crucial to the product team process. And in addition to engaging feedback from our clients and following current industry trends, our teams spend countless hours researching and testing new ways to make our platform bigger and better year over year. In today's webinar, I'm going to cover 5 quality features we've released this year. After that, I'm going to provide a live demo of one of those 5 features mentioned, our largest enhancement this year, our interactive seat map, one which I'm personally excited about because it's been a long time coming, and I think you guys will share my excitement as well. And lastly, I'll be providing a sneak peek into the rest of our 2019 product roadmap, and we will close out with a Q&A session. And as Joe mentioned earlier, if you have any questions as I move along, please use your chat window to type your question, and we will do our best to answer them at the end. So let's jump right into what we're going to cover today. To lead off, I'm going to run through some details on our new interactive seat map and explain our reasoning behind the new look, as well as how you can get one added to your site. Next, I'm going to discuss a few use cases around our will call alias feature, which allows users to create multiple versions of the will call delivery method. Then we're going to review an enhancement to our auto-scheduled price changes tool, which includes the introduction of a custom time field. I will also be reviewing location-based qualifiers, which we completed a webinar earlier this year for this feature, but since it falls within the same timeline of this presentation and some additional promotion can't hurt, we decided we're going to talk about it just a little bit more. And right before I get into the demo, I'm going to cover some smaller enhancements that perhaps don't quite make the headlines, but are still super impactful to our accesso ShoWare users. And well, they need a little love because we're still proud of them. So with that said, let's talk interactive seat maps. So one of the prime reasons for revamping our seat maps was to add simplicity to the purchase process. And in listening to our clients, we got feedback from users that we're having some difficulty selecting seats for, say, sold out shows with lots of sections to choose from. Not to mention box office volunteers or call center employees who may not be as familiar with the venue's details, and trying to sell seats to a caller at the same time, and able to also easily describe what's available and provide specific details on those seats, which makes sense. The more users are clicking around to make a seat selection, the more likely that customer will become a +1 in the failed conversion column, and that's not good for anyone. So to resolve that problem, we've created a seat map that can be seen in its entirety, along with all the section detail without all that clicking. We titled it Interactive Seat Maps because we want the user to navigate through the seat selection process as if they were actually standing in the venue and could physically point to the seat they want and easily add it to their shopping cart. We've added some additional graphic elements to the seats to better communicate special seating circumstances such as ADA, so wheelchair, companion seating, and things like obstructed view seats. With these changes, we feel the user experience should drastically improve because the layout is clear and informative, as you'll see in this demo later in the presentation. Another major win for this feature is the ability to immediately communicate any additional pricing options for a seat prior to adding the seats to the basket. So we now display the price ranges in the price category legend beneath the map, and users can also update their pricing options without ever having to leave the page, which should limit potential confusion from your customers. So as I mentioned before, we're going to touch on these items again during the demo at the end of this presentation, so I'll save some additional hype for later. The option to have interactive seat maps added to your site will be available at the end of June, so end of this month. So to inquire about more details, please contact your client service manager for updates and how you can get the new format added to your site. Next feature I want to talk about is our will call alias. So the name may sound a little funny because instead of creating an entirely new version of will call, we created an alias, which essentially follows all the same rules as the system version of will call, but it allows some additional configuration. So firstly, this feature is perfect for clients who have multiple venues being sold on, say, one site, or just have multiple will call locations. So users can now provide patrons with a clear and direct way to pick up their tickets. Another benefit of this tool is the ability to configure different pricing. So if your venue charges for will call online, but doesn't in the box office, you can create both versions of will call in the system so that the online method charges users and the box office can select the free version of will call without having to worry about waiving any of the delivery fees and potentially forgetting to do so during that process accidentally. Lastly, if this tool applies to your venue, it provides for a much better user experience because you can be specific in the descriptions that appear in the confirmation email as to where to pick up those tickets. So no more having to combine location information and hoping the reader is intelligent enough to pick the right one when they're picking their tickets. You can find this feature, it's available to everyone, by accessing your delivery methods in the system config section and clicking on will call. You'll see it there at the bottom. We also have documentation on our Bloomfire help portal found by logging into the admin page of your system. And you'll see that once you log in, there's a little help button right there at the top. The next feature I want to discuss is our enhanced auto price changes. So we've had this tool for as long as I can remember, but the main complaint we always got was that the way you had to execute a price change automatically was to have it triggered at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time. And while that's still a helpful tool, obviously not everyone here is in sunny California. And so accesso has clients all over the world. So we needed to provide a solution that works in any time zone. We've now added a time component to this process so that users can now offset the time zone to trigger the price change anytime you like. So a few use cases for this enhancement would include a true day of price change. So you could schedule it, on the day that performance goes on sale, and it will trigger at the time you've decided, not 12:01 a.m. where someone's having to go in and manually change or push that on sale at whatever given time. And this also would include some better pricing configurations for package sales. So as time elapses and performances start to fall off the package offering, you can preset your pricing so that it's triggered automatically, using the price change tool. And all you need to do is have the package to go back on sale is to remove those old performances. So if that happens to be how your business functions, of course. And this feature is displayed in the pricing configurations tab of an individual performance. And you'll need to select maintain automatic price changes button to see the new time field. So once you get in there, you'll see it. The time field is very easily displayed and off you go. So we've gotten lots of great feedback on our recently released feature, location-based qualifiers, which is going to be our next topic. We held a webinar back in December and discussed all of these features in detail, but wanted to take some time to remind everyone that this feature is out there for use on any system. And to review, we covered how users can create special timeframes for access restrictions on a specific set of seats so that our clients could create limited time offers to patrons to be able to work with outside marketing partnerships like various credit card companies and people like Groupon as well. This gives people the ability to say if you're working with Amex or you want to work with certain types of Visa or whatever, you could configure a price range for that specific bin range on those credit cards and allow users to, when they make their payments, to enter in that information. It'll only allow those users to purchase those seats if they have the valid payment information, along with a few other things. And so another major benefit of this is to be able to test various pricing strategies. So trying to figure out how you can more efficiently discover market potential for those seats. So you could try offering different price points, offering it to select groups, and trying to find out what they're willing to pay for it within your market. And to access this webinar, which is going to have a lot more detail on this process and feature, you can visit accesso.com/learn.
Yeah, Drew, I wanted to jump in here and just say to the audience that location-based qualifiers has been extremely well received by the customer base. I've received more positive feedback around this feature than any other feature we've released in my 11 years with the company. I do know Drew's very excited about the seat maps, and I think that may surpass this one. But again, this is a really valuable feature. If you're not using qualifiers to help drive pre-sales and public on-sales, you really need to get with your CSM and have them get you up to speed on this powerful tool. Drew?
Thanks, Joe. So, excuse me, in addition to working on some of the larger, more advanced features, we also don't want to lose sight of some of the smaller requests that with some companies might fall through the cracks, but with accesso ShoWare, we feel are equally important, and usually some low-hanging fruit that to our clients will go a long way, regardless of the effort involved on our end. There are many more enhancements than that we complete that you'll see here, but wanted to point out a few that stood out and possibly the most useful of the bunch. Before I get into the details on these enhancements, I'm going to preface this with a note to talk to your CSM about additional specifics, as the smaller enhancements don't always come with a manual. Most are simple but effective. So with that said, let's get into one. Barcode validation. So what this enhancement allows for is basically for the box office to easily mark a ticket as scanned, and that's going to be directly from the order detail. The use case here revolves around resolving customer support issues. So say a client is scanned at the gate, but for one reason or another, the scan returns invalid, and the ticket buyer is asked to go back to the box office to sort out any issues, determine what the situation was. Say it's then resolved, and then from here, the box office can go in, resolve the issue, mark that ticket easily within the order detail as scanned, which completes the access control entry process. So rather than send the patron back to the gate, and have the person rescan their ticket and go through, potentially wait in line, a lot of times the box office can allow someone to go in early or through another exit, so they're not having to deal with all of that waiting in line, especially if it was a case where maybe the error was on the side of the venue. This feature also allows for any just general manual cleanup from tickets that maybe weren't scanned improperly, they were scanned improperly, or something went down and you just needed to go back in and clean it up so that all your reporting balanced out properly. We've also added some enhancements to our apply to event functionality. Now you can there's certain sections within the system that allow you to mass apply certain information across performances. So in this case, you'll be able to mass apply performance changes using a filter for not just the date range, but specific days of the week. So we added a small calendar feature to this. So this is especially helpful for making pricing edits when you have, say, hundreds of performances already created, but you only need to apply those changes to maybe the weekend rates. Next, we've added some user permissions. So we are constantly adding permission structure to the system as needs arise, but this mention is primarily for larger venues who have lots of permissions based on who can sell what within the system. And by this, I mean we have added permissions to the price code groups so that rather than restricting price codes individually, having to go into each price code and say this, user A, B, and C have access, but the rest of these people don't have it. So when you're getting into administrative price rates or comps or certain things like that, if you've structured your pricing code groups so that all your comps fit under one, all your group sales fit under another, that sort of structure, you can just create your permission based on that group. So you're not having to individually go in and attach those permissions to that group. So it saves a lot of time, especially in the setup side of things, which was a nice quick enhancement to add. Another simple update was the ability to send out vendor notifications on the previous day. This essentially allows users to automatically trigger performance results via email, so it's a small report, and only show the previous day sales or ticket buyers to the recipient of that email. This was just a small one, but it was a big request across a few different clients that we've had vendor notifications in the system for quite some time, but it was just showing, previous week or next, or like all time, things like that. Just adding simple filtering options goes a long way in alleviating some detail or some stress when dealing with outside vendors or promoters or that kind of thing. So that was a nice add. And then next we have reporting enhancements. So this enhancement section could probably have its own slide in this presentation, to be honest. We're constantly updating and adding columns to reports, updating filter options, reformatting output, speeding up the time it takes to have those reports display on your screen, especially when there's large quantities of information all at once. And rather than go into specifics on these reports in this presentation, because there just simply isn't enough time, I just wanted to point out that we will always work with you on reporting needs. If you don't see a specific piece of data in your report or column or format, something along those lines, don't hesitate to reach out and request, because we're always listening. And lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about themes. So themes are a feature in accesso ShoWare. We've had them for a while. If your site uses them, you're probably very familiar, but if not, it allows users to, the client, prompt the buyer at the end of the purchase process for various types of responses on a per ticket basis, per ticket purchased. So for example, if you're a dinner theater and want to know ahead of time what type of entree they want, you can ask it there. So as they go through the process, they're purchasing their ticket. If they buy 3 tickets, it's going to ask them 3 different times which meal they want to associate with that performance. Things like having dietary restrictions, or basically anything you can think of, we can attach that to a ticket. Now that's not the new part. Prior to this enhancement, the only people that could see this information was the venue. So you guys go in, log into your system, run a report on that information, and off you go. What you do with that is up to you guys. We've now made it so that the responses, so the selection that's made during that process, also shows up on the confirmation email to remind buyers what their selections were. So if they purchase tickets weeks, months in advance, that serves as a reminder which entree they're going to get when they show up, because odds are they may have forgotten. So that's a nice, helpful, simple, but effective tool. So with that, we are now going to take a look at our new interactive seat map, which we've built up. So without further ado, I'm going to back out of this for a second, and we are going to take a look. So with that, we are looking at one of our event pages right now. We're on a demo site, so some of the content is just filler content, but the good stuff comes later. So with this, we're looking at a performance of Wicked. If you're sending your users directly to this page, or if it be the home page, either way, the workflow is still, that user experience flow is still going to be the same. So if I go in, I'm going to select for July 31st, I get my performance. And instead of seeing a graphic image for your seat map, especially if you're in a reserved environment, you're now going to get our new interactive seat map. And so with the old method, you'd see that graphic image, you'd have to click into the section, and then it would tell you, you'd see just that specific section, which seats were available. If you didn't want that section, or you wanted to kind of take a look around the rest of the venue, you'd had to back out, go back into another section, and rinse and repeat until you got the seats you want. So with this, we've done away with all of that. Now, utilizing the exact same seat map that you already have built in your system, there's not really any new additional work needed here. So with that said, you guys are gonna have to reach out to the CSMs to kind of get this configured, but we'll be able to build that out based on the existing settings you already have. So you're not having to start over. If you're interested in doing this, any existing performances you have on sale will not be interrupted. The new look and feel will just take over. It's not as easy as flipping a switch, because we do have to build out a few things, but just keep that in mind as you're watching this. So one of the cool things, as I mentioned, we now have the price ranges. So you're going to see all of these price categories that are, again, are already pre-configured in your seat map. And we have the lowest and highest price based on whatever pricing codes you have made available online. And this is not including coupon protected codes. It's not including membership rates. It's just, if there were a random user logs in, takes a look at it, that's what they're going to see, whatever options they have available to them. So the cool part about all this you can now zoom in, click, drag, move around, kind of see everything, zoom back out. You have a plus minus tool where you can zoom in. If you get too far in, there is a reset button that allows you to kick that back out. We've now updated some of our image requirements on this so that you can actually include a graphic image behind these seats, which is very scalable so that it's still very crisp and clear behind. Like when you're zoomed in pretty far. So let's take a look at what the seat selection process looks like. So you'll notice if I go in and hover, you're going to see the section information, the row, and the seat, which are the most crucial parts of this whole process in identifying what they're doing. You can identify the stage. You can have this thing turn if you want the stage at the top, you want the stage at the bottom of the image, you want it to the left, doesn't matter. You can have this thing positioned. If you're more of an arena, the stage is in the center, it wraps all the way around, you can still see all the sections. So there's no more of that like section restriction information with the old seat maps. Free to do pretty much whatever you want to do with this. As you'll see, the default pricing for adult, $85 displays. And we have, in this case, a section view image that is attached at the section detail. That information is already available to you now using the existing seat map structure. So that just pulls that information into this new workflow. So another very cool thing, once I click it, you'll see that the seat's selected. It reminds the user of what they've selected. And you see it immediately right here to the right. So before, as you start selecting seats, you just see little check boxes, and that indicates that it's selected, and then you have to get to the basket to really see some additional information. Well, we've condensed that down. The basket is still present, which you'll see in a second, but the nice thing about this is that once it's in your basket here, we call it a widget, you can actually select your pricing from here. So there's no more, I'm looking for a child seat, but it says adult here at the bottom, like why can't I add that? They can now do that. So that should limit a lot of confusion for some clients or customers going through this process. I can start selecting multiple seats. So in this case, I'm selecting something marked as an obstructed view. For the sake of this demo, obviously this is the front row. It's probably not obstructed, or you have a very horrible venue if it is. But just wanted to demonstrate that using the special seating, we've now included icons. So you can see the eye kind of indicating what that's going to be. We have a system preset of images that are used for that, but as special circumstances arise, as clients start to adopt this, I'm sure that image library will increase based on the needs. You'll see that the orange price category carries through with this process. Everything's still very clear, 2 seats selected. I see what I'm purchasing. If I want to see a description on this information, I can click that. You get the pop-up widget that goes into the performance description. Everything is still right there at the user's fingertips. If I were to, in this case, I have an orphan seat restriction turned on so that I don't leave a blank middle seat. If just to prove that it will still prevent that, if you go to add to cart, you'll get a message basically saying you're producing isolated seats. Please don't leave any gaps. So I could either move it, or in this case, I'm going to predict or select the third one just to keep going through the process. Another thing that I wanted to show in this is along with some of those other special restrictions for the ADA, if you select, say, a wheelchair seat, you get the wheelchair indication, but we also had the old attestation message that pops up that says, hey, just so you know, you're picking a wheelchair seat. There may not be a physical seat located here. Are you sure you want to purchase this? We still have that same process built in. So that will pop up now from the bottom to remind the user that, just to make sure, yes, no, etc. So with that, if I say yes, it's going to send me into the cart. And then this is basically what we've always had. This part of it hasn't changed at all. So they can still make some additional changes. If I go back, you could have changed it to senior. I meant to change that before to send it so that will persist through this process. And then you go to checkout, and that's kind of that. So that is the demo. And with that, let's get back into the presentation really quickly.
While you're doing that, Drew, now would be a great time for our audience, if you have any questions, to go ahead and start typing those into the chat. And we look forward to answering those in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Yes, yes. All right. So what we are looking at now is our accesso ShoWare 2019 roadmap. So this is, you've seen the features we've done during the first half of the year. These are going to be the items that we're going to tackle next. We're in the process of a few of these already, with the anticipation that all of these items that you see here will be completed by the end of the year. So as you can see, it's a 29 product pipeline. As you saw in the demo, we now have the interactive seat map, which I think, hoping, everyone will be very excited about. Currently, that is only for use online right now. As you'll notice in this the orange tab here, we are currently working on building that exact same visual experience into the box office. And again, we do expect that out later this year. There will be some additional controls around the box office side. Obviously, as a box office user, you're going to need a lot more permissions and controls over some things, but you won't lose any functionality. You're just going to gain that visual. And you're also going to have, if you liked the old list format where the sections are listed out and you just pick seats, that'll still be there too. So we will follow that work up by integrating our new NLT map, so the new map you just saw, and the existing workflow. If the new thing isn't your, cup of tea, you don't have to switch over to it by any means. But we're going to be adding the pick your own seat functionality into Flex Bundles. I think we released that back in 2018. It has a lot of cool functionality, but the one thing we weren't able to get to with that feature was the ability for users with reserved seating venues to be able to allow guests to pick their own seat. That's coming. That probably is going to be later this year. And next, we're going to be working on an RFID solution that will allow clients to utilize our Alvarado scanning solution. And if you're not familiar with Alvarado, it's an alternative scanning solution that we've adopted last year. And they have a lot of the hardware and equipment that works with RFID. If it's something that you're going to be interested in, please bring it up to your CSM. I think they'll be happy to talk to you about it. We're still pretty early in the coding process for this, so it's probably not going to be something until a little bit later this year. But essentially, if you're unfamiliar with RFID, it's kind of a big term thrown around these days, but using various mediums that come embedded with an RFID chip, it allows for like a near proximity scan to a reader, and then allows for entry, so you're not having to actually physically scan a barcode. And lastly, we're going to be working on creating a tokenized print template. This will be for use with our Bokeh printers so that users can easily, and by users I mean back-end users who are setting up performances, can easily create a printing layout with the tokenization, and then say Wednesday, or I don't even know what date it is, June 24th, 2019, and fill out the performance information, the date, the time, any special restrictions on that performance, and then mass apply that out. Well, if you mass apply that out and maybe you made a spelling error, which happens, you have to then go back in and fix all that, and there's not an easy way to do that. So with these templates, that will make it much more, it'll limit those pesky spelling errors, clean up that process, and make it much more of an enjoyable process for users in the back end of the system. So, all right, and I think at this point we're going to open our Q&A. Lynette, do we have any questions that have been submitted yet?
Hi, Drew. Yes, we do have a couple of questions that have already been sent over. The first one is, how do I get the interactive seat map added to my site?
Sure, I'll take that one. So as Drew mentioned, you will want to get in touch with your CSM that handles your account, and they will, again, end of June, we should be ready to start releasing these. We currently have a couple of clients in the beta test phase for seat maps, and your CSM will be able to help you with that. task.
Perfect, thanks, Joe. The next question that we have is, can I create pre-sales through private group links?
Sure, I'll take that one. So this one I think is reference to the location-based qualifiers that we had presented on, and the answer is yes. So when creating qualifiers, you go in and you're selecting seats for a specific performance that you want to isolate and attach a special restriction to. Those restrictions have the ability to be sold online through, a portal that you access through your website, or you can generate a private link so that only someone with the link, you can only access it in the back end of your site, can then attach that to some sort of communication to private groups or whomever, and then only users with that link can gain access into those specific seats. And it's a relatively easy process.
Great, thank you for that. Let me see here. The next question is, can I add a coupon on the seat map screen before the basket?
So I'll take that one. So I think this was in reference to the interactive seat map. So right now the coupon functionality is not built into the little widget that pops over. That is something we are going to be adding. And that probably will be done this year, but users will still be able to enter in the coupon in the basket. So, while you're getting that range of options open to you, there's, that basket process is like the core part of our software, and there's a lot of code buried into that thing. And so that's more of a phase 2 project with this. So it will be coming soon, but as of right now, it is not something they'll have the ability to do on that page. You'll have to wait to the basket.
Perfect, thank you for that. I believe that was our last question. If anyone does have any further questions, feel free to submit them. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get back to you guys after the webinar with those answers. But thank you, Joe, Drew, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, What's New in accesso ShoWare. Like I said, if we didn't have the chance to address your question, we'll follow up with you individually. And if you have any other questions or would like to learn more about our accesso ShoWare solution, please contact us at sales@accesso.com. We'll be sending out the link to view the recording within the next day or so. And on behalf of accesso, Drew, Joe, and myself, thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.